Hey movie junkies, welcome back to another episode of Twin Flicks, where we always here celebrating the magic movies and physical media with you. Now today is a release I've been very excited about for a couple years now when I heard through the grapevine that David Fincher was working on his masterpiece Seven in 4K. And to celebrate the 30th anniversary, Warner Brothers went all out on this one. They restored Seven with an 8K scan from the original 35mm negative, bringing Seven to the UHD format, downsampling it to 4K, 16-bit color depth, and HDR10 grading. Also preserving Seven's original intended theatrical ratio of 2:39:1 based off of the 35mm negative when the Blu-ray was framed wrong at 2.20:1. Also, David Fincher had hands-on supervision overseeing every aspect of this restoration, and when this 4K was released, we all heard the news. David Fincher used some subtle AI in the restoration. However, I decided not to sit here and get into that aspect of the restoration, and if he should or should not have used it. Instead, I found a different area that I wanted to focus on that has to do with the final act of the film, where there is a very drastic shift in color timing. To the point, I wasn't sure if this is how the color timing is supposed to be, or if it was changed specifically for the 4K. So we're going to take a closer look at that, and stay tuned because it's pretty interesting what I found out. Alright, well it's that time to take a closer look at David Fincher's Seven on 4K UHD against the previous release Blu-ray. Now I have to begin with this review with the ending. The final act of the film where John Doe leads Somerset and Mills into the Mojave Desert. There is a very drastic shift in color timing, where I wasn't sure if this is how the film was meant to look or was it changed specifically for the 4K release. As you can see, the Blu-ray has bright blue skies and slightly cooler looking image to it, while the 4K has a little harsher sun-baked skylines and a warmer image. So which color timing is accurate? Well, I did some investigating. I purchased the DVD, I also looked at the alternate ending in the supplemental material, and I went as far as Googling pictures that people took of that specific area where they shot the film at dusk and sunset, and based off of all three sources, it is telling that the 4K is how the color was meant to look like. I also noticed something else while going through the frames with the Blu-ray, is that the Blu-ray still has some frames on it that have that harsher sun-baked look to it. Also, the final shot of the film with the sunset is vastly different. All of this tells me that the Blu-ray's color timing, at least for the ending of the film, was inaccurate and timed specifically for the Blu-ray. And this really makes a great reference point between the 4K and the Blu-ray, and also makes a really good example of how an 8K scan or even a 4K scan and HDR grading can really bring back a 30 plus year old film back as close as possible to its original intended appearance. But as for the rest of the 4K transfer, Seven's 4K presentation offers up a very stunning image quality that stays as close as possible to the original source material and David Fincher's intended design of the film, which leads to a very visually compelling 4K transfer. The 4K gives us a much better look and feel of the subject matter and the darker tones of the film, and the HDR10 grading handles this extremely well. A lot of attention was given to black levels, and the improved black levels are naturally deeper and inky, looking truer black. The Blu-ray was definitely no slouch in this department either. But when you compare the 4K to the Blu-ray, the black levels and shadow details are much better here with the HDR10 grading enhancing the black levels the way they're supposed to look, along with stronger and richer shadow detail and shading that's very impressive, giving stronger dimensionality and much more depth, such as during the scenes shot in the pouring rain or under low light scenes. Also with much better delineation throughout, even in the darkest corners, with excellent visibility. I was also very impressed with the use of lighting and shadows that is beautifully reproduced here, and highlights are handled much better where light sources from flashlights aren't as hot and blown out as they are on the Blu-ray. Also, white levels and grays appear with different degrees that stay consistently truer looking with those bright crisp whites and better looking grays. And while the film definitely relies on darker tones, that doesn't mean there isn't any colors that pop, as few as there may be. The HDR HDR10 grading enhances those primary colors. First notably are blood reds that look deeper crimson red, adding a more lifelike appearance to it, and also a lot more nuance. Or even the vivid red police lights on patrol cars ignite against the darker tones. Another perfect reference point here between the 4K and the Blu-ray is just a higher 2160p resolution of the UHD disc that lends to more finer lines and just the sheer level of clarity and sharpness. It's outstanding. The finer lines with the high resolution and the HDR10 grading really helps in drawing out even the smallest, most mundane, finer details while enhancing the delineation and all the nuances within objects. I mean, you could pick out any scene, any frame of the film, and there is just an impressive amount of detail and textures that I honestly just never clearly saw before, from backgrounds to corners, or even the very textures of surfaces of buildings, dwellings, and walkways. You can even see more graffiti and trash and grime on the city streets and sidewalks. It looks very organic and lifelike. This 4K UHD truly showcases the rich production design and beautiful cinematography filling the entire 2.39 to 1 frame. There is also much more depth and three-dimensionality in the image now than I've ever seen before. The extra depth also leads to a much better sense of spaciousness and a truer sense of three-dimensionality, giving a true cinematic experience like I've never seen before on home media. And the bit rate, it ranges between the high 70s and I saw it peak out in the higher 90s Mbps. Now, 7 has always had a finer level of grain fill to it, and the 8K scan reproduces this without any grain management used, at least that I could see. This 4K UHD carries a nice, tight, fine layer of natural 35mm grain fill, giving a beautiful filmic appearance. Huge props and kudos goes to David Fincher and Warner Brothers with this 8K 4K UHD release of 7. I literally felt as if I was watching 7 in the theater for the first time again. Now, as for the audio of this 4K, David Fincher decided not to do a remix of the soundtrack in Dolby Atmos. Instead, we have a new DTS 5.1 lossless mix. The surround mix sounds open and wide right from the opening title sequence, the 9 Inch Nails instrumental version of Closer. You know exactly what you're in for. The surround channels stay very active and come across the front channels to the rear channels with an excellent mixture of sounds and music. Howard Shore's iconic score is striking and full body, coming out of each discrete channel that flows through the main channels with some really nice accents and some strong dynamics and high fidelity, giving a heavy immersive soundscape. A perfect reference point here with the music and combined with the sound effects is the John Doe chase sequence that's all mixed in exceptionally well and fills the listening area in a 360 degrees, putting you straight in the middle of the action. Low ends are perfectly balanced with some nice deep bass. However, it's not very aggressive. Honestly, the Blu-ray was a little bit more aggressive. I did miss that more aggressiveness. Dialogue is rendered crisp and clear. This is an outstanding 5.1 mix. Alright guys, so my score for 7 on 4K UHD, I'm giving this one my highest recommendation, a 5 out of 5 for video and audio. This is just an outstanding 4K UHD presentation, and it's definitely a reference-worthy disc. Alright guys, well thanks so much for hanging out with me for a few minutes here as we talk about 7 on 4K UHD. Let's get those out of here. And I did receive Panic Room in actually today at the time of recording this video, so I will be doing a 4K comparison of that as well. And also there's some interesting facts about Panic Room that I'm going to get into about the transfer. It's not necessarily just an upscale. So stay tuned for that review. As always guys, keep physical media alive, and we'll see you next time.